We are live with our MC 4326 class, Advanced Social Media and Analytics. I am here with Angie. How are you doing today?
I am so amped. I'm so excited. It's the last one, and I'm sure we're going to end with a bang. We were just talking with the group right before this, and they just seem so social and so put together. I'm so excited.
Can you believe we're at the end?
What a journey.
I know. These shows have been so fun all the way through. I've enjoyed every single one of them. Today, we're going to be talking to our Advanced Social Media and Analytics class. Who will be joining us on LinkedIn, but we are streaming live across 3 platforms. We are on LinkedIn, we are on Twitch, we are on YouTube, and feel free to share us around. What I do think is interesting is that we're kind of ending on a bit of a somber note, but I don't think so with this team. This subject is social media designed to deceive. I've been saying this basically since week 1, that every time I come into this room, Angie, sometimes there's just certain groups and they just jive. They have such synergy and it just seems to click. And this is one of those teams. So I've been waiting for this show, not to hype you up too much, but Heather, how's your experience been?
I was actually just telling my group that I was gonna miss our group because this is the most most collaborative group I've had, and I feel like we function and flow really easily. I feel like we're all pretty yappy, so I think it helps a little bit. But yeah, I was telling you that I was gonna miss this group whenever we're done with the class. So
I'm gonna miss all of you. Feel free to drop into any of these shows later. But we are really, really excited for your show today. And I want you to know that we are looking forward to it. I'm going to pass the floor over to you to start the show off. But, Angie and I will jump in. That's inevitable, but we are excited. So take it away, Team 6.
Well, today we're going to be going, like Nicole said, over social media designed to deceive. So today we're going to be discussing social media that just doesn't reflect reality, but it also reshapes it. But what happens when that reality is actually a lie, or perhaps a lie? Behind every like, share, and story, there might be a strategy that's there to manipulate you. So we're going to be going over reading discussions with Johnny in photo manipulation, Mitchell with deception with technology, our social media news with Nick, and then our newsworthy example with Callie, and then Heather's going to wrap us up with deceivement. But before we get into all these beautiful segments, I do have a question for everyone here as well as in the chat. What is an AI creation that you thought was initially real? For me,
Go ahead. I'll come in right after. Keep going.
Okay, for me, mine is back in, I think it was 2021, Drake's covers on TikTok and Drake's original songs, but really it was just like AI. I thought it was real, and then that's what I found out on TikTok.
They still do that. Like, I think I've seen so many
yes.
TikTok of like Sabrina Carpenter cover or Taylor Swift cover, and for a long time I believed it, but I went to the comments one time and they proved me wrong, and I felt like an idiot. But now I know.
You never go to the comments. Oh, number 1 lesson.
And this topic specifically, I'm gonna actually be talking about like the Drake song, because it was like a really huge moment at the time, and even I agree, I thought it was real too. And there was some interesting stuff that happened with that.
Sorry, I was just gonna cut you off and say Reese said that she thought her mom was thought the crystal mugs.
What is the crystal mugs?
Tell me about the crystal mugs. I have missed it. Okay, Andrew,
have you guys ever had like a salt lamp?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I just needed like a mental image. So like it's kind of like this really, for Nicole, it's like this really, really beautiful like crystal, right? So it's just like a really beautiful rock. And so for those that know what a salt lamp is, just kind of imagine if that was a mug. So it's just like a really beautiful like crystal mug, and they were like for sale, and they were so beautiful, and it looked like very unique because it was crystal. And then I actually was very late to the game. Yeah, Reese, you and and me and your mom are like this and that though, because I also thought they were real. I was gonna go buy them, and then it's like, oh no, this is AI. I actually fall for that a lot.
They weren't real products.
It's actually
that is such a random thing to like fake to me.
I know. And the
very
same thing with Pinterest. Like I'll go and I'll be looking for like outfit inspirations. And then usually with Pinterest, if there's like a nice shirt or something, you can kind of like hold it and it takes you to like where you can buy it. And then recently I've been like trying to hold like shirts and blouses and just cover-ups, and they're all AI. And I'm like, I want to buy some of these things. None of these clothes or mugs or things are real. It's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching, guys.
I feel like, oh, sorry.
I was going to say, Heather, I saw your comment.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like in today's day and age, like fast fashion and drop shipping and all those things are very popular. I know this isn't like particularly part of our discussion, but like I was literally looking for vacation clothes the other day, and these designs that were printed, or I guess like they technically looked like beading, just like more intricate designs on the clothes. And then I like looked up reviews, and this dress was like $90. And I saw a girl buy it, and it was like the beading was printed on. And I was like, oh, y'all are scamming. Y'all are scamming for $90 and $5, maybe like 30 cents worth of fabric, honestly, if we're really being like,
yeah.
Like
I bought a sequin bikini that was supposed to be sequin, but
it was printed.
Yeah, it was printed. So
yeah, I feel like that happens a lot in fashion, especially like now, because like fashion isn't particularly made with like time in mind. It's made more of like fast fashion, and like things like trends and stuff are going to cycle out. So.
Yeah, I actually saw a picture of like it's another TikTok one, but TikTok of like a picture of what an image is supposed to be, but then of course deceiving us. And then when we actually buy it, it's like something way cheaper and not even like the actual thing that they were advertising.
I secretly really love those videos where they show you what it looks like before they buy it.
Yeah, it's nothing like it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think
it's like
that's
true with games. Oops, sorry.
It's
Go ahead.
true with almost all aspects of our society now, even with food. And, you know, even like I know I saw an example with men's like cologne. You know, you pay such a high price for something that's very similar to something that's $20. You know, you're almost paying for the brand. You're paying for the name, you know. And I think that's something that is a prime example of deception in our media today, is this sort of like hype beast, fast fashion. You know, like Supreme, I think, is the prime example of that. It's like people were buying stuff that just had a Supreme sticker on it for 10, 20, 30 times its market price, just simply because it had the name on it. And so I think that's definitely an example of deception that we have today.
And going back to, I just wanted to go back real quick to like the clothing, and in relation to like social media deception and like influencers. I know that was a thing that happened when Kylie Jenner recently came out with her latest brand, Kai. It's a clothing company, and like when she was promoting it and when she posts in the clothes, she looks like perfect and amazing. But when people actually ordered it, like the proportions were off. It's very much like it was designed to specifically fit her body, which is a manufactured body.
It was. They made one thing to order, and then the rest are not.
And I know like Fashion Nova has been like really like big when it comes to like sponsoring different like influencers and giving them clothes to post and everything. A lot of those photos that they take like in the studio, I know there's been like footage of them taking the photos like with the jeans. They'll like pin them in the back with like this giant like clip so that it looks like very like fitted to the body, but it's actually just like manipulated in the back, but you can't tell in the picture when they post it.
That's just all of fashion. I used to run a magazine as an editor, and I'll tell you, we do all the tricks in the back. I mean, that's not just influencers. That's every picture you look at in the fashion industry. Heather?
I feel like it's obviously you know, perfectly okay to have work done, our BBL baddies. But who is built like that? Who are they making clothes for?
Not me.
Just terrible.
Not me.
not me. It ain't me.
Yeah, like the Chloe or the Kim Kardashian brand Skims, you know, and how
Yeah.
they almost make like the one size fits all.
I look like
That,
an American Girl doll in Skims.
yeah,
I
I know.
look good in it. I returned it. So
Yeah,
I
it's
feel
maybe
like,
flattering on Kim Kardashian, but on
yeah,
a lot of other people, it's not.
I think it's the Photoshop thing, I feel like, as well. They're very much known for Photoshopping, and I feel like
Yeah.
they definitely use that even in all of their brands and companies, whatever they're doing. Because I didn't honestly know about Kylie's clothing brand. I had no idea.
Yeah, and I was just gonna touch up on that. I know within my discussion I was gonna go into, of course, photo manipulation and stuff like that. But a lot of people that you see, they're obviously shaped to be fitted and modeled and like just shown to look good. Like, because you won't buy something that's looks bad, of course. If you see it and it looks nice, you're going to want to buy it. And then you get it and you're like, this looks nothing like how I just seen it in a magazine 2 days ago, you know? So it's all based on like what the audience sees and how they're manipulated through it, you know? So.
That's something that I talked about too in our discussion post this past week, was how makeup, the trend has moved towards very like clean girl aesthetic and like not as like full beat glam caked on face. But it's hard for people like the Kardashians and Kylie Jenner to adapt to that because their faces were pretty much like created to be a perfect canvas for makeup. And so when you try to strip that away and try to relate with everybody else in the natural trend, it doesn't look right because you've made this face according to like all these like horrible beauty standards that you've set that are all like based on lies. So now when you have to like be yourself, you can't really do it because your face is not natural.
Yeah, and someone, Marco, commented, my friend did a Skims photo shoot and she told us how misleading the whole thing was. I'm not shocked. Yeah.
it's kind of like, I don't know, Heather or Alexis, if y'all have ordered from Princess Polly or Hello Molly, but there's one Australian model who is literally waist this big, hips this big. And I always will buy a dress online that she has modeled and I get it. And it is, I look like, I don't even a nun. It's down to my knees. It's baggy in the waist. It looks terrible. And everybody on TikTok always talks about how she is a great model, yes, in theory. But then I'm 4'11". I'm buying those clothes and I look like it could be an ankle dress. It is terrible.
Yeah, I see another comment too about from Kennedy on LinkedIn. She said, yes, sometimes it's so disappointing when you find a product that you want and it happens to be AI like the whole time. Yeah. I feel like
it's
too,
so
it's honestly hard. It's frustrating to get clothes because it's just you want to look how the model looks. And unfortunately, we're not going to look like that.
I feel
So now-
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Heather, go.
I was just saying that, like, relating to what Nick said, I think that also tied in kind of well with what the last group's discussion was about like beauty standards and like how it's edited and everything. I think it just like gives a bad what's it called, like mindset to like the younger audience and the younger children, because like they are literally looking up to these girls and like wondering like, why don't I look like that? And it's like they paid for that, so obviously you're not gonna look like that if you have no money, but
So with clothing, I think it's like frustrating and it's annoying, but it's maybe not as like problematic that the dress doesn't fit as, things that could potentially cause more harm. So who's doing the next segment? I think you were talking about image. Yeah. Take it away with that. Whatever your segment is.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute my mic. Yeah, so mine is on a article written by Stanford graduates, Jeffrey T. Hancock and Jamie Gilroy. It's called Deceptions with Technology. And it's basically about how digital media communication tools can influence behavior. So a really simple example that I think we've all experienced is when like your friend says, I'm on the way, and they haven't even left the house, or they haven't, even started getting ready to leave. That's something really common that I think we have done ourselves, and that we've seen people who, our friends have done as well. And it's really kind of a low-key example because it's not necessarily harming anybody, but it is still a deception. It is still lying. In the article, they actually touch on that point, and they say that with technology, people lie about 2 to 3 times a day. Even if they may not realize it, they still do it, because when you say you're doing something and you're not doing it, that is technically lying, and that technically is deception. And they touched on that, and they called it butler lies. It's like when your butler tells you they're going to get something cleaner when something's already clean and they haven't done it yet, but you're not really going to find out for yourself. So you kind of just let them do their thing, and they're going to get it done at some point. At some point, it's going to become the truth. But at this current moment, it is deception. Another thing they touched on was physical deception, and how digital technology has been able to uncover physical deception. And so it almost creates this sort of paradox of, well, if we're physically deceiving somebody, and a lot of deception comes from technology, now technology is helping us uncover this deception. So it's like, yes, you can be deceptive through technology, but you can also uncover deception through technology. So it's sort of a double-edged sword in that way. Another really interesting point which they touched on was a term they called sock puppets, which is sort of what we were talking about before, which is, companies and clothing brands promoting personal agendas. But it touches on, like when companies, maybe restaurants, comment on their own Google page and they comment a good review, or, startup business asks for you to review their company positively when maybe you didn't have a positive experience. And so now they're almost sort of coercing you into making this positive review.
I will
and then-
say, sorry, I didn't want
Yeah.
to interrupt, but I will say I used to work for a company that actually wanted me, not necessarily to lie, but they wanted me to like have put a positive like review or a positive story on their like
Yeah.
accounts or on their social medias, just to like kind of, because they were kind of not in like got a bad review of something, but they just wanted to kind of keep up the whole positive like comments and everything, and they wanted me and like other like employees to do that, which I thought
Yeah,
was interesting.
and it's really common with like companies that are just starting. Sorry, Kelly, did you want to say something?
Sorry.
You go ahead. You go
I feel
ahead.
like that's like, and I see it a lot with student apartments in particular. But when they say, "Oh, you get this if you leave us a good review," and I'm like, "Girl, my student apartment was gross and dirty, and there was no parking, but $150 off of rent a month or for this month, like, duh, I'm gonna."
I will write whatever you want me to write. Just never make me live through again.
And they're aware of both of those things too, right? They're aware of the fact that the apartment is not up to par, and they're also aware that they need to do like PR damage, basically, like get people to sign. So they're gonna offer this college student an offer that, of course, they're all gonna want to take, and promote that all over social media, even though it's all like
fabricated,
the deception.
I'm gonna just move it back to Mitchell, please. Just for so you can continue on. Yeah, but really,
I think that example is like prime for what sock puppeting is it's getting people who are in a situation where they need to have money off their rent, or maybe they're like, oh, I'll give you a promotion if you give us a good review. And I mean, I was talking with my boss, and I work in the library, and he was saying if they don't do their what are they called when you review other teachers and review professors, like at the end of the year, if they don't do that, then they're not eligible for raises, so they want you to be constantly reviewing and telling us how they're doing. And in that situation, obviously they can be negative about it because it is professional. But for like what Callie was saying, where if you gave them a good review, you get $150 off of rent. That's a lot of money for people who are paying rent out of pocket, and they're not getting paid that much at work. That can make a big difference in someone's life. So that's a prime example of what sock puppeting would be. And then another topic they touched on was astroturfing, which is sort of a effort to make a false impression of support for a candidate in an election. That's a really common example of it. I think really recently astroturfing has become something that has taken main stage with, the 2016 election, the 2020 election, and even the most recent election. They've all had a lot of people coming out and saying that there was deception on the line. Instagram added their new thing where it says if something's true or false, because there was so much deception going on in that specific social media site, that they had to say this is true or this is false, especially with COVID-19 as well, and the election coinciding with COVID-19. There was a lot of astroturfing going on, a lot of people saying Donald Trump's going to do this, or Biden's going to do this for these people who are suffering or people whose family is dying. And it's one of the most evil and effective forms of deception that we have today, is trying to make these communities who don't have as much and who need more believe one thing for if they vote for this specific person that may not be true, and that wasn't fulfilled to them over the course of maybe that person's presidency, or make them believe that it would have happened for this other person. And it's certainly something that's very common now, and something that it needs to be addressed at some point in the future. How do you guys feel about that?
I feel like that happened so much with this last election. Like, okay, if you vote for this person, they're going to do this. Okay, well, I'm voting for this person because they said they're going to do this, or I saw online they're going to do this. Oh, well, the price of eggs are going to go down, or the price of gas, or you're going to be able to buy a home. And I feel like that's really bad for people, especially our age, when we're hearing, oh, you're finally going to be able to afford this, or you're finally going to be able to buy a home in 5 years. When we're sitting here
and how are those egg prices doing?
Yeah, the egg price and the gas prices, they're the exact same.
I see a comment from Reese. She said, this is so true, especially during the past few elections. Yeah, I think about the whole.
And that's the biggest problem that I think we have with politics now, is that it's just lies. It's lies.
Getting really personal. And especially when we're hearing stuff about, if you vote for this person or they become president, you'll be able to buy a house. But girl, I have $5 to my name right now.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do to do something right now?
Yeah.
This recession, I'm not getting
the recession we're currently in. This is gonna change.
Yeah. I feel like during the whole election thing, it was just like everyone. I feel like people weren't technically intentionally trying to like deceive people, but they were just like listening and just not like doing their own research and just going with it. Like whatever they liked, that is what it is. And then I see Angie. She said dropped an egg on the floor the other day. No, and almost cried. I was scraping so carefully. The sandwich, you're sandwiching it, Angie.
And it's something so mandatory and so needed as something like an egg. Like eggs, we should not be worrying about having to buy eggs or bread or essentials that we need to survive, like food or gas or house prices. These are things that should be necessity to us as not only Americans, but people in the entire world should have these as necessities. And it's sad that now we have to worry about if we're going to be able to buy food, how much money are we going to need to ask for in order to get food for ourselves.
And I feel like, especially with gas, I feel like the gas conversation has been going on for 5 years now?
Yeah.
No longer.
Way longer.
Long. And I remember when, I know we're all around the same age. When I first started driving, I drove my Toyota Corolla, and it cost $18 to fill it up. It now costs me upwards of high 30s to $40 to fill up my car.
I drove a Prius, and it cost $20 bi-weekly to fill that thing up and drive it.
I see Reese said, I saw a Great Value orange juice for $8.
And then Maria says misinformation is rampant these days.
It is. It really is.
I want to ask a question based off of this conversation, because I think this is hitting me in the gut, to be honest, or like the heartstrings, to be honest with you. How does misinformation play into political choices and the way politicians are trying to reshape the narratives to, meet end objectives that don't necessarily solve the problems that we have, or that you are having, or that your friends and family are having.
Yeah,
I
I
feel like
think
fear. Like they
fear.
love to say like the other person that's going against me is gonna ruin this, gonna ruin that, is gonna do this. And I feel like that's just like doing unnecessary fear instead of saying what you're gonna do to do better. It's just like pointing
Yeah.
the finger, I feel like.
Yeah, and especially us as Texans, there's a lot of fear now with what the policies that have been implemented, and especially people of, that maybe aren't white or have crossed the border at some point. There's a lot of fear in that. And I think we shouldn't live in fear. We shouldn't live in fear of our freedom, which was in the Constitution, is given to us. We have the freedom to do what we would like. And if you are an American citizen, then you have freedom. And I think it's gone to a point where it's gone too far.
I think speaking of politics, even like I know we were talking about this election and past elections and everything, but I feel like some people who voted for, I'm gonna just say it. I feel like some people who voted for Trump are regretting it. I'm not obviously like telling you to pick sides or anything, but like I feel like there's a lot of people that voted for Trump, and because of like the policies that he said that he was going to have, like eggs, gas, you don't control that, you don't do that. But like, and everybody that is like that did vote for him are now seeing like the effects of like even like ICE, and they were like, this is not what I thought was going to happen. And that's like the majority of like the policies that like people say that they've like voted for him for. Like even my friend's parents, they're immigrants, and they were able to vote, and one of them voted for Trump, and she was like, she posted on Facebook and she was like, make sure you like look out for your like immigrant families or your DACA families, etc., because they're like deporting them, and like ICE is in Houston and ICE is all over Texas. And I just like, obviously you did not put in the research that you needed to like know who you voted for. And I feel like doing that research and like having that media literacy helps so much when it comes to like an election, because it's like, how are you going to vote for somebody that you don't really know, or like you don't really know their policies,
I feel like to kind of like go back from that, also like I feel like it's hard to even like find real and like factual media literacy because there's so much bias everywhere. You don't even know sometimes, like you're reading something that's they have their own bias for. Kind of like I feel like, I guess because I forgot which class it was, but they were just saying that Fox is very much more Republican idealistics, and it's just kind of like people that listen to Fox, of course, are Republican because they are hearing the things that they want to hear essentially from Fox, and they just think it's true because that's what they like to hear. And it's just hard to kind of like find that in between of what's real and what's factual and what's just bias,
Yeah.
And just like the overall like topic of this whole discussion, to me, just raises the question, like, with the misinformation, especially with like people like our parents' ages on Facebook, misinformation is like rampant all over Facebook, AI, like, and it just makes you think like, would things have turned out differently in the election if people had done a better job to like realize what was misinformation and what was not, and like actually gotten the actual facts, rather than to just go off of what they're seeing on social media or what they're following, and not
exactly. And most people like it really comes when we're young. Like most younger age people, they see stuff on TikTok or they see stuff on Instagram, or they don't, let's be honest, as teenagers, you're not really focused on the news aspect of life. You're focused on what are you seeing on social media. Most people that are older are seeing stuff on, as what Heather was saying, on Fox or ABC, more stuff that they're talking about in like Republican ways or Democratic ways. And you have these younger people that are going over, okay, this is what I'm seeing on Instagram, this is what I'm seeing on TikTok. I'm going to obviously shape my own opinion that way. And then you have these older people who are seeing more, I'm not trying to say realistic, but they're getting brain fed in a different way than, of course, younger people.
Yeah. I think, like Kamala had a TikTok page in like the election, and so she was trying to meander to like the younger audiences and stuff.
Exactly.
But I'm just gonna touch on one more point, and then we'll move on to Johnny's. So the last thing they really touched on was self-presentation and identity. So an example they gave was like on LinkedIn, if somebody exaggerates their qualifications or exaggerates where they work, that could lead to job opportunities that they wouldn't have got if they were not deceptive. Or even something that kind of relates more to us, like, if you make a Tinder page or if you make a dating profile and, you lie about what you like, or you lie about where you've been, or you lie about, these things to try to meander to maybe the opposite sex or the opposite, or somebody you'd want to date. And I know that we were touching on like catfish, and we were going to touch on, Manti Te'o, who's a football player from Notre Dame who got catfish. And it was a really big thing when it first happened. And, those are just ways in which we can be deceived through personality and through human interaction, and that how that can affect us outside of just the internet.
I want to derail you a little bit before you go to Johnny, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
So this conversation got very political very quickly. And I want you to know our morning class did as well. And of teaching this over the last 4 years, this is the first semester where almost every week I keep thinking, gosh, this course has gotten political. But I don't think it's the course that has gotten political. And so I want to frame this question to you through the lens of, we know that social media is an attention machine. We've been talking about this all semester. It doesn't matter how true something is. It doesn't matter if it's factual. It doesn't matter if there's any sort of logic behind it or if it's real. The machine is going to amplify whatever will catch or capture attention. That doesn't necessarily mean that we agree with it or we believe it, but that, it's going to show up in the feeds some way, somehow. Now, we also know that this is being channeled through social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can keep naming all of them. I'm not trying to, rule out any particular ones, but we know that these platforms are social, they're political, they're economic. We've been talking about that all semester long. They have these other interest points, right? Like your clicks, your likes, whatever people see the most of is going to generate money for them. Your data generates money for them. And so we start to see a shift. Early this semester, we started to talk about the shift that was made with Meta to drop fact checkers in favor of community notes, which I think has pros and cons, but I do think it's a political decision. And, we also see things like right now, and I mentioned this to you during our little chat on Monday, about how researchers are now being defunded in mis and disinformation. And so the point I'm trying to get at here before I raise a question is, how can we understand these topics? How can we discern what is misinformation, disinformation, deepfakes, AI? How can we do that when it's not something that's being prioritized through the social media platforms, through research, through, all of these different avenues? How do we solve that problem? Because I can tell you that what I'm hearing just generally is that it's getting harder to figure it out. So knowing that, we're dealing with political, social, economic systems, and this is kind of the machine it is in, how do we approach this topic?
I feel like it's going to be a while before anybody has the answer to that question, because I feel like it's like suddenly one week we woke up and AI has been around forever, but there was just 1 week where all of a sudden ChatGPT, Google came out with it. AI was just huge. Everybody, it was for them being pushed as the next consumer electronic technology thing. And I feel like it's moving at a rate that nobody expected, even the people that are working on these things and the algorithms. And so they have kind of gotten into this problem of like, how do we actually like get a hold and control this? Because it's just, as time moves on, it's going to keep getting more and more advanced, and it's going to keep getting harder and harder to like draw the line of like what is real and what is fake.
Yeah, and I think Jackson Bonnet, he left a comment that I think really sums up what you're talking about. He said, the breadth of partisan media and social sites has created funnels that people can get stuck in when it relates to the information they consume. And the algorithm is designed to feed them more of this misinformation for clicks. So I think what he said at the end sums it up perfectly. It's for clicks, it's for money, it's for traction, it's for gaining, more money. I mean, a lot of what misinformation is in an attempt to gain monetary value. Whether it's about clothing or whether it's about raising gas price, or whether it's saying to lower gas prices or lower the price of food or lower the cost of housing. It's all in the, trying to make more money for that specific company or that specific social media site or their funders or their backers, And I think what really has to happen in order for us to see a difference in that is for money to not be the forefront of our nation, is for money to take a backseat to the human experience, to happiness, to freedom. There has to be something in the future where we say money isn't everything. Money isn't what defines this country. And I think if we can do that, then misinformation and, like you were saying, the defunding of people who are trying to find disinformation and to undiscover what it is, that will take a forefront with money taking a backseat.
Oh, I like it. I'm sorry. I like everything you just said a lot. And I just wanted to highlight that there's a couple academic ways that we can kind of frame what you're saying. Not the capitalism part, I totally agree. But just from the like when we go online, and Jackson's saying this too, like they get stuck in this almost like feedback loop. We would call this maybe an echo chamber where, you're in this zone where it's just going to keep feeding you more and more information. That doesn't mean you can't get in and out. The other way that I like to think about this is through the concept of homophily networks, which just basically says you're more likely to affiliate with people with the same viewpoints as you. And I think that is amplified in a social media algorithmic environment. But I'm going to pass the floor over to Heather now. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. I just want to almost like piggyback off of what Mitchell said, because I think it's so apparent that our world is so controlled by money that the deception, like research being like the funding getting cut for it wasn't, I would say, like for money purposes, like solely, but I feel like it's more of like they don't want us to know the like misinformation. I feel like whether it's the government or like TikTok and other companies, like it's more of us just like being kept in the dark and not having that information,
I don't think it's hard to draw a line between Jackson, Mitchell, and you though, because the economic aspects of it, right, lead to that, right? It leads to the power and control that comes from being able to, shape that narrative.
I wanted to read 2 comments and then I'll get into my answer to your question. First comment from Marco was Candace Owens is saying she's regretting her vote, which, and then he also said it's crazy to say, but I think our generation really gets more political information on social media, which I agree. I think especially with the election, it makes sense, but it's just the way it's been very recently. And to go answer your question, I feel like I could say what we should be doing is doing the research, comparing, contrasting different articles and different information, but no one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. And I think it is at least a little bit intentional that they're defunding researchers and fact checking and just kind of, like Heather said too, like kind of just slowly like putting us more and more in the dark and just like having a blanket over us, and we're just not going to know, and we're kind of not going to try either to figure out. But the way we are going to try, I think, is through social media, and that's where they're giving us the misinformation, where we can't even draw the line with what's factual and what's not.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to think about, that if we can't figure out what is real and not, how that can be used to shape narratives. I want to push it back to Johnny though, because I realized I interrupted this whole thing. But thank you for that great.
You're good. That was a very great way of like describing it. Like, you don't know what's real or what's fake, and it's all about it's all about what you get out of something. They're obviously putting out this fake information. They're obviously putting out these fake audios, fake photos, anything to get the audience a click, anything to grab their attention.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I see. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Do you want to pronounce this?
She goes by Cece, so it's fine.
Cece, okay, I'll just say Cece. Cece said, 100% agree. Once the nation detaches from money, everything else will be able to flow into getting fixed and a lot better. And then I see Reese also said, I think the dividendness comes from all of this misinformation,
which is 100% true. It all goes off of what you see at the end of the day, and how you want to see it, and how the person wants to take it. I want to go into photo manipulation though, which is often used creatively, and it's becoming exploited to mislead the viewers, especially on social media platforms. I got a chance to go through a study by Amura et al., which was a student at a university near here. They investigated how easily people can be deceived by photo manipulation on social media, and they compared these attitudes that they're getting from like these manipulated photos. They compared the attitudes of teens and the young adults. And a few things that I found from it is that deception is it's common. It's going to happen no matter what, by both groups. Like, they both can be misled by whatever they see, and it all just goes on how they want to take it. Their attitudes are obviously different. As a kid, you're going to react differently to what an adult will see. They also got into digital literacy and how it matters. Most adults are more aware and less likely to be deceived by photos or videos that they see online, rather than kids. Of course, they grab a phone, they see something online, they see something on YouTube, and they obviously just believe anything that they see. Kids are more gullible, of course. And they also recognize the exposure sign. Young adults are more active on social media than most older people, making them just more sustainable to seeing this false imagery and seeing things on social media that they really shouldn't be caring about. And if you really think about it, they benefit from this. Most young people allow them to develop through social media. They develop their lives. We develop our lives through social media. I'm talking as myself. I'm a young adult. We stay on social media all the time. That's how we communicate. That's how we promote ourselves. And
I feel like, sorry, I just wanted to say, I feel like we also develop a personality through there too, with all the things, all the everything. And I just wanted to say, I see Maria also said, I'd be looking at the prices at the store and go,
yeah, it'd be pretty bad. But it also creates an emotional impact. What you see online, you try to compare that to yourself nowadays, especially those with unrealistic beauty. Like, you can see a Kardashian online, you can be like, oh my God, she looks 10 out of 10. Why can't I look like that? And it creates a negative effect on their mental health. And all in all, it just creates just bad on bad on bad on bad. you're not getting anything out of it but negative impacts.
I think a big thing about that too was, I don't know how long it went on, when it started, when it stopped, but for a little bit, if you were to Photoshop a picture, Facetune a picture, and post on Instagram, Instagram would say like that it was AI, or there was something in it about it being Photoshopped, and it, I mean, doesn't do that anymore. I don't know why. I feel like that helped a lot, but I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of kids seeing a lot of stuff that we didn't see when we were younger, and it's changing how they're acting, how quickly they're growing up, the things they're interested in as they get older, and they're not going through awkward phases like we had to. They're seeing everybody who already went through their awkward phase, and now they're acting 18 at 13. So
exactly, like we're seeing 12-year-olds with face full of makeup because they see like someone, a famous influencer on Instagram or TikTok, doing the exact same thing. And it's also leading to young influencers. Like we're seeing kids walking around with tripods and just vlogging their lives like you're going to elementary school, honestly.
We need more scholars, less influencers.
Exactly.
But
I'll say what I said this morning. Social media doesn't amplify science, it amplifies opinions and beliefs. And that is kind of what it does, right? So yes, Heather, I do follow all the female astronauts. Like you can make a concerted choice to do that. But I don't think that's how the majority.
Yeah. I was thinking that like Johnny and Callie were talking about how like deception is very obviously like very easy, and people will believe quite literally anything they see on the internet. But and then we were also talking about kids, and I feel like that is an important topic to have, because these kids are like the younger generation, and they're, you know, supposed to be our political leaders and our teachers at some point. And like obviously this is the Kardashians and everything, and the AI and the Photoshop have definitely I would say like made a very impression on these kids. But I also think it's like it's not just dangerous to their mental health, but it's also dangerous to them on like a, you know, just overall kind of safety level. Because okay, this is gonna sound a little sad. When I was reading this, I know, I'm sorry. When I was reading this article and I was going over you know, Johnny's stuff, it reminded me of this case that happened in, I think, 2016, or no, 2006. Her name was Megan Meyer. And it was essentially a case of this 14-year-old girl, and she was getting like cyberbullied and like catfish essentially on MySpace. Let's just put that into perspective. MySpace. That was a time in its own. But pretty much long story short, the girl ended up committing suicide, and like her friend's mom was part of the like problem, because her friend's mom, who was probably 30, 40, made a MySpace and like posed as a 16-year-old boy. And you know, when you're a 14-year-old girl, boys is on your mind, you're gonna do what you want. But she was just like pretending to be this younger child essentially, and it ended up leading her to be like, you're the type of boy that a girl would kill herself for. First of all, terrible idea. Second of all, just like overall sad, because like you're a grown woman that was pretending to be a child, like, and now this is like the repercussions of it. So I don't know. I think that's just a safety. I mean, I think it's just important to keep in mind like the younger youth and everything, because their minds are so susceptible to everything.
Yeah, I feel like kids are like, you know, the whole like brain rot thing. Like kids know about brain rot and they're like think it's funny, but it's getting to a point where it's not getting funny anymore. Like it's kind of really concerning. And then there's also like the Sephora kids too, and how like they see like, of course, like I'm sure if they have older sisters and it's like younger, I'm thinking specifically younger girls, and they see like their sisters getting something, and then specifically like they're like obsessed with Drunk Elephant. And I feel like now that's like a really big thing for them. So anything that comes out, they just, of course, immediately assume it's good for them, when really Drunk Elephant, I think, was initially made for like women over 17, but like women over, I feel like, even 40. It's like for like just to help. Oh, that's already another thing in on its own, of like skincare, or some skincare stuff being good for the skin and everything with collagen. But like kids are putting, we and Callie were talking about this earlier, but like they're putting retinol on their skin. They're putting, like, 12-year-olds are putting retinol already on their skin. Like, it's actually going to ruin their skin more than help.
And you don't need stuff like acne medication when you're prepubescent. You haven't gone through puberty. You've barely gone through puberty. These are dirt pimples. You just didn't wash your face. You don't need a retinol cream, tretinoin. You don't need all the skincare stuff. Like, leave that to the doctors who specialized in that, not TikTok.
Let's stay on like the Cetaphil, even Johnson and Johnson. Let's stick to the Johnson and Johnson. Like, they're children. Let's stick to the child things. You know, like the play makeup. Like, they don't do that anymore. The phones with the lip gloss in it. They don't do that anymore. They put on.
I love those.
But yeah, it's just everything that they see online it leads to a big influence. And you know, the study concluded with them stating that photo manipulation can be a creative tool. It's a nice marketing tool, but it poses ethical concerns, and it highlights the need for a greater media literacy help. Like, you need that help to teach these younger kids, or even teach older people, that, hey, what you see online is not always going to be beneficial to you, you know? So, but I want to ask a question. What you guys, I'm pretty sure everybody has been on social media in the past 24 hours. Have you guys seen anything that you wanted to like be like, okay, do you feel like I need that? Or
like in terms of a product?
I know I've been on TikTok Shop recently.
Product.
Oh, like TikTok Shop.
Yeah, I've been on TikTok Shop recently, and I've been seeing a lot of gym merch that I've been like, okay, I really feel like I should have some new gym clothes or some new Young LA merch or stuff like that. And I wanted to know, have you guys been looking at the same thing, or is it just me being influenced by these top name people, like athletes and stuff like that online, or like Ashton Hall, or like people that been showing that they've been doing good for themselves?
No, like you know, like the phone cases on TikTok, the Magic John like screen protectors and stuff, where they have like ads all over the place. I actually bought one recently and it works really well. But I literally, the only reason I bought it was because they had all these ads showing like how effective it was. And, you know, luckily it is a very effective phone case. It's worked very well. But, you know, obviously they could have been lying as well. So
it's also, I was looking at gym stuff on TikTok. I saw, I'm sure every girl's seen it, the little crop tank top with the biker shorts set, and I put it in my cart. I was never going to buy it. I'm too scared to buy on TikTok Shop. But I put it in my cart just in case I decided to. And now my entire TikTok, every ad is a girl being like, they have it in so many colors. They have it in my size. It's back in stock. Like, all I'm seeing is the one singular thing I clicked on one time. And I'm like, okay, now you're dragging it. I don't need to see it anymore. I don't need the set anymore. Like, I've seen it a million times. I just...
Yeah,
I get it.
Apple cider.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I get the apple cider vinegar vitamins, the Goli or Jolie, whatever. I don't know why. And then it's always, they say the weirdest things ever when they advertise it. Like, I don't even want to say, but they get weird with like how they say like, they say like, oh, if you want to be like, my girl is so sexy because she just got these vitamins, and then it's the link of the TikTok shop of the gummies. It's like, I don't want to buy it anymore. That's weird.
Like, why are you putting your girlfriend's information out there like that? I'd be mad as hell. Oh, I'd be mad. I'd be upset.
That's okay.
Like, okay.
And she's losing it too. That's
Sorry.
okay.
But what's it called?
I don't have a beep button, Heather.
I know. I'll bleep myself. It's okay. I'll bleep myself. But like speaking of like TikTok shop, I got like an African net sponge from TikTok shop. Let me tell y'all, it works great. But I am a window shopping warrior queen. I will make a whole cart of things like on whatever website I'm on, and I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there until like at least like a month or two. And if I really, really, really want it by then maybe I'll get it. But like usually it's just like chilling in my cart, and then my like what Callie was saying, my For You page will be spammed of just those ads. And I'm like, where's the humor? Where's the funny things? The cooking videos, even.
And in this economy, we're keeping it in the cart.
Yeah.
I'm keeping it in the cart. I'm not buying it.
I see Reese said that I love Magic John. I have mine for 2 years now, and I've never cracked.
I used to always crack my stuff, and now it hasn't cracked at all. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I have a question. So what I've heard from listening is that 1, you use social media for connection. 2, you use social media to post about yourself and to see others, so for social comparison. Number 3, I've heard that you use social media for news. And number 4, I've heard that you use social media for buying things. Is there 1, is there anything your generation doesn't use social media for? And number 2, it sounds the answer is no to that. I know. It's a rhetorical question that I want you to answer anyways. Number 2, in this context of the health conversation that we're having right now, do you feel like there is ever information being hawked at you that is not accurate or could potentially harm your health? And I just kind of want to open that conversation because I think health misinformation has become so rampant on Instagram and TikTok. And I follow these accounts that tell us like, I was giving this example to my morning class. I said, I follow these people who say like, you don't need glasses. You can just correct it by straining your eyes. Like literally that is their health advice. One of them says sunscreen will cause cancer, but being in the sun is totally healthy and you should definitely not protect yourself with sunscreen or anything else. They say things like, you just need to rub avocado on your knees if your knees are popping out of place. Like these are kind of some of the suggestions that I'm seeing coming in on Instagram and TikTok. So 1, is there anything your generation doesn't use social media for? And does that become a problem? And then number 2, have you seen any of these sort of like health misinformation? And how do you discern when it's true, false, where to go with it?
I think a big thing with this, especially right now, is Kourtney Kardashian's Lemmy gummies. We are not, that is insane. People are like, oh, there's ashwagandha in this one, and there's this in this one. I don't understand why we have influencers making health products. Go to the FDA for that. Go to the drugstore. Go to your doctor. We do not need Kourtney. Is it Kourtney that makes it? Like, selling us health products. I think
she also makes a GLP-1 now, a Lemmy GLP-1. So it's like literally Ozempic for the masses.
And Reese said that you also use it as a search engine. I meant to say that, Reese.
I was gonna say, ever since TikTok happened and like a year or 2 after, that's my Google. TikTok is my Google now. Unfortunately, I know it's not good. That to answer your question, I do use it. But it has gotten to a point where I even see like, you know what, maybe I should research this before believing what this person is telling me. So
and YouTube. If I need to know anything, if I ever have trouble with anything, I just use YouTube.
Tutorials is YouTube.
I think that like on TikTok, it's one, TikTok is ruining our attention span. But because our attention span is, ruined, I think it just makes it so much easier that those videos are like 20-second clips or like minute clips that you don't have to like if you're sitting on YouTube, you're obviously watching thoroughly, but like maybe I just want a little snippet, but also like with the health trends and everything, I feel like it's crazy because we live in such a world or like such a time that body positivity is so important and so like thrown on to us that it goes almost too, is it too positive? I'm not trying to say is it too positive, but like what Callie was saying, like we don't need influencers that make gummies. We need doctors. We need, Google searches.
I'm actually gonna hop onto this, and then I'll let Nick continue.
Angie's been biting her lip, but she really wants to go, and we should let her.
Yeah, I'll run it through real quick. And this is just like mental, like when you said health and misinformation, this was the first thing that came into my brain, really in relation to like diet culture and the food habits that social media propagates, because there's, I think, a very, very subtle out of context word that takes advantage of the user's lack of education. And that is the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian. So people will be like, oh, I'm a nutritionist, don't eat sugar, don't do this, don't do this. A nutrition is anyone that knows anything about nutrition. I could be a nutritionist if I Google for 20 minutes. A dietitian is someone with special education, a license, and again, training. So I like one of them is whenever someone says dietitian, I listen a little bit closer than if someone says nutritionist, because there is actual like credentials backing up their statements, while a nutritionist is what someone will try to say to seem credible when honestly they're just pushing a diet culture or like their own personal agenda.
Angie, that's such a sensible way to approach it. But honestly, most of these people who are health, wellness, holistic influencers, they're neither, and they're still hawking advice, right? So I think that therein lies the problem. So I don't know how to solve that, but I think some of these suggestions are really good ones.
I didn't even know there was a difference between nutritionist and dietitian till 35 seconds ago. So
I was gonna say yeah, and I feel like too with like I'm a hygienist. You should use the water flossers or whatever, and then just the whole like a doctor, and of course they're gonna recommend like I think also at this point again on TikTok, bringing it up again, people now already have the idea of like if there's a link of the TikTok shop in their video, no one usually like believes it anymore, and people even say that in the comments, like you know what. If it's on there, you're just doing an ad. Like, I don't even believe your story that you're telling me.
We're going to pass it over to Nick. I think it's your turn. Does that sound right?
Yes. Okay. So mine is the social media news. And so we've been talking, there's a lot of different forms of deception on social media. We've talked about a lot of them today. Obviously, one of the most prevalent ones that gets a lot of attention now is with AI and specifically like deep fakes, and how that affects a person's life. And there's a couple examples actually with Taylor Swift. And I just want to preface these examples I'm going to talk about by just saying, like, although these are celebrities or influencers, like this just happens to be big stories because it's them, but this stuff happens to like everyday people, just like normal people. And I'm going to touch on some of that too, but like I said, these are just examples, but these things are like real problems that we need to be aware of. So in 2024, that was kind of like the first year. Last year, I feel like the first full year of like, okay, AI is here, it's the next thing. So obviously it was like everywhere. And in January of 2024, there were on X explicit images going around of Taylor Swift, and they were obviously fake deep fakes. But she did end up taking that to court, and it really did prompt like this discussion to have like stricter laws when it comes to things like this, because like I said, this stuff can not only happen to somebody like Taylor Swift, it can happen to me, somebody here, it can also happen to a political figure, somebody of high importance, and not just explicit photos, but just like something like really harmful that you could put out there, somebody could put out there, and people will not know the difference between the two. She also had another case also last year where a campaign photo of her was circulating on X. It was AI generated of her supporting Biden, which that eventually made it over to Truth Social, Trump's social media platform. And he did bring attention to it because when it got over there, it was then flipped to be pro-Trump. So then he saw it and he like was like supporting it, and like all of those people on Truth and on Facebook were just believing it. But that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with that disconnect of like, I feel like younger people, like we would be able to, like this photo, I'm telling you, it's like you look at it and it's like, girl, that is not real. But when somebody who's older, like my mom, she sees so many things on Facebook and or TikTok too, and she'll just like tell me about it, and I'm like, Mom, that's not real. Like I can tell you just told me that, but like just from you saying it, I'm like, it's not real. But it's just it becomes hard, what I was saying earlier, for them to like separate the two, probably because they didn't really grow up with it and like seeing the evolution. So to them it's just like this thing, like, oh my god, look at this big, look at Taylor Swift. And obviously that can be dangerous in a case like this when it comes to an election, and this isn't real. Yes, we can tell, but there's always going to be people who cannot tell, and they're going to base a decision, a very important decision, based off of that. That also affects the person, like Taylor Swift. Both instances, the explicit images, obviously that would be like damaging to your mental health. But even just this, like if that's not her political standpoint that she has, which clearly it wasn't because she endorsed Kamala, that just like is damaging your character and what people think of you, and it's not even something that you necessarily did. It also happened that same year in June, Megan Thee Stallion had the same exact thing happen to her. It was an explicit video of a deepfake of her, and it was going around like crazy. It obviously affected her. I know Heather was saying earlier that there was actually like an instance during that period where she was on stage at a concert going through this and she started crying, because obviously like people are seeing this fake image of you and thinking it's real, and that's just so like crazy
and violent.
And like I was saying, this isn't just on like that high of a level. Like people, everyday people go through it. I'm sure one thing I wanted to ask is like, I'm sure a lot of you guys have like either it's happened to you or you know somebody who has had a fake page on Instagram made about them to promote like a OnlyFans page or like explicit things, and then they're just like following all of your friends and everything, like messaging and stuff. Like that in itself could be like damaging to just your reputation. Say you're trying to get a job and somebody finds that and it's not even you. And I feel like there's an obvious trend. I mean, this of course can happen to anybody, but specifically not just with this, but in cases like this throughout history, it's always specifically women who are getting the hardest push on this. And when we discussed this earlier, I really wanted to bring back this topic to Heather because I really loved what she had to say about this. And I think it was really important on the topic. And I think it really needed to be said, especially from a woman's perspective.
Yes, Nick. I completely agree with literally everything you said. You put it up like very well. I feel like in this world that we live in, first of all, a lot of things are ran by women nowadays. We just got to respect that. Girl power for one. But I feel like it's so harmful for like these deep fakes and these AI things that are being created, because not only does it harm like their mental health and everything, but women are constantly being at like the head of the like this, I guess like spear or something, but like women are always being scrutinized and always being targeted as it is, that we don't need the internet's help, you know, for more pressure about this. Yeah, Nick put it very well into words. Nick put it very well.
I can't think of too many examples of male celebrities that have been objectified with nude deep fakes of themselves that circulate with the kind of rate at which the ones like Taylor Swift's did.
Never.
I feel like backing off of that. Sorry, Heather, were you done? Like in my newsworthy example I read, literally, it was talking about the Twitter page, the Black Insurrectionists, if I'm saying that properly, and how this person, they come to find out it was a white male who was lying, saying he was Black and saying stuff about the election this last year, and was the one to be going on talking about, oh, Kamala slept her way to the top and that's how she got in the position she's in and all of this stuff. And I feel like there was so much that happened on that Twitter page. That was the one that surfaced the rumors about Tim Waltz touching students when he was a teacher, and all of the stuff he had to say about Kamala, especially with her being given the questions before the presidential debate. But I think that says a lot about somebody lying about their identity to go online and talk about a presidential candidate, whether you like them or not, whether that is your party or not. You are telling the masses, oh, well, this person that is not qualified to be the president or run for president, despite the many government positions she held prior, because, oh, she had sex with a bunch of people and that's how she got there. Like, I think that is so disgusting and sexist, and that says a lot about how people can so easily be deceived by something. And going online and saying you're one person but you're not, first of all, that's crazy. That there's just no way you can tell who's actually writing what on a Twitter page, an X page, and also just coming up with stuff to throw women down because you don't agree with their political opinions. I think that's crazy.
Yes. And I want to just say, like, piggyback off of both of these things, I feel like women are Kamala isn't a perfect example of how like scrutinized women are and like how under a microscope women are, that like for I guess like deepfakes and AI examples, like I feel like the worst thing I've seen of a man was like JD Vance's memes that people have been posting of him as like a baby or something. Like it's always towards like the more funnier things when it comes to men, but it's more of like the mentally harming things that are thrown at women, you know?
And I feel like that was the premise of this last election. Like, obviously, if you don't agree with that side, that is completely fine. And we respect each other's opinions. But when you come at someone's political stance because you think that the person running is a slut or a whore and they did this and that's how they got there, y'all would never say that about a man. Y'all would say that about any woman you didn't like, but you would never say it about a man. So I think that says enough in and of itself.
Thank you. Super interesting conversation. I recognize that we are about 2 minutes out, so I don't remember who's the closer, but you need to take it away now.
I got it. I gotcha. Don't worry. So to wrap things up today, we talked a lot about how deception in media can manifest itself in many forms. But what we talked about today isn't just about AI or deepfakes or even technology at that. It's simply about trust and how easily it can be manipulated and how quickly false narratives can spread when we're not paying attention. From the fake accounts pushing conspiracies to AI generated voices and deepfakes, it really blurs a line between fact, or I guess like reality and fiction in a sense, because we're living in a time where deception can go viral in seconds, you know, just like Taylor Swift's video, or, you know, next example of Taylor Swift and Megan Thee Stallion. But yeah, Alexa started us off with some crazy deepfakes and AI creations that sounded so real that you had to double guess yourselves at times. And Mitchell talked about how fewer nonverbal cues tend to lead us to more deception. And Johnny highlighted about how common deception really is. And Nick highlighted how these deepfakes tend to be targeted towards women like Megan Thee Stallion and Taylor Swift, We're trying to paint them not only explicitly, but leaving these women to deal with trauma of the media afterwards. And then Callie wrapped us up with bringing up a great example about how we're so quick to believe what we see and not question it. So we see the effects of the celebrities and the power that deception has over them every day, but what can we really do about it? What we covered today was bigger than just the deep fakes and edits and the AI, but it's about how the truth is constantly being twisted, and usually right in front of our eyes at that, and just how easy lies are to spread whenever there's nobody there to like question them or fact check them. So here's the thing. We are not powerless whenever it comes to this, stopping this chain of deception, because the first step is to stay curious and ask questions, just for awareness, and not to accept everything at face value. For example, we could be questioning like why something is being posted, or double checking our sources and just looking for a reason why it was posted in the beginning. Curiosity is our superpower in this world of manipulation, and which sounds kind of sad. But another thing we can do is support digital literacy, and I cannot emphasize on this enough, because whether it's just helping our younger siblings or our grandparents to recognize what AI generated content looks like, just pushing for media literacy in schools, we all play a part. The more we educate ourselves and the harder it becomes for deception to win. And we're also the generation that grew up learning about this type of technology, but it doesn't mean that we have to be the ones that are under pressure from it, because we can shape how it should be used. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to our group. Thank you for everyone that presented. I'm glad that we were last, but yeah.
Did save one of the best teams for last. Way to go. I want to just say that I didn't expect it to be such a political conversation. And what I will say about that is it was refreshing. I appreciated you being vulnerable and open and willing to go there and to take it a bit deeper. I do think that you worked just spectacularly together, not just today, the whole darn semester. I almost swore, but that's Heather's fault. She got me on that train. But you worked so incredibly well all semester, and just such a pleasure. I don't know how Angie's feeling, but I'm like on cloud nine, because I think you really you nailed it. You knocked it out of the park. You brought our final social media show to close in such a beautiful way. And I think we're going to be thinking about these conversations for a long time to go. We have some clapping going on. Yeah, you did just amazing, Angie.
Yeah, there's a bunch of love from the comments. Great job, everyone. Applause. Great job, guys. Thank you so much, Kennedy, Gianna, everyone, for the love or the comments. You guys definitely deserved it, because what a way to end the streams. I am definitely going to be thinking about this for a long time. It was very educational, great discussions. And again, you guys collaborated very, very well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you nailed it. Well done. I can't say it enough times. So I am going to be posting another announcement before Monday this week. It's like a second announcement for the week. But you're done. You're done. All you have left are 2 more social media labs and your portfolio. So drive it home. Be done. I'm so proud of all of you, especially this team, but everyone throughout the semester. These social media shows have been so fun, and it's been because everyone has come here with so much preparation and so much insight, and everyone has done so with their opinions. And I think that is what makes it interesting. And I keep saying this to every group, I don't expect you to come on here and have one opinion point or another. It's more interesting if we all bring our own opinions. And I think throughout the semester, people have done that by and large in such an interesting way. So thank you to the whole class, and thank you to group 6. What a way to end. So proud of you all. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you soon.